All right, everyone, you are in for a treat. I'm joined by none other than my friend Frankie Calkins, who came on back when the podcast was When I Grow Up, which was feels like forever ago. A lot has changed. Frankie's a money guy, he's a marketing guy also, and we're going to dive into a lot today. So get ready. We're going to talk about becoming a dad, we're going to talk about financial freedom, we're going to talk about passive income, this amazing challenge he did. I'm excited to dive into that one for sure. But all in all, Frankie, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm super excited. Have we grown up? Is that what just
No,
happened? Did we
absolutely
graduate? No. We're
no.
still growing.
We're still growing. Get shit done
Right.
just means this is what it takes to do it, I guess.
Yeah. We're in the grind.
We
We're
are
in the
grinding.
grind.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you meet someone on the street for the first time or you're at like a networking thing. How do you introduce yourself nowadays with all the different hats you wear?
Oh my gosh. Well, again, by day, I do still have a full-time job. So I'm a marketing director in the sleep space. Very important to get good sleep. But I would say on the side, I'm a finance content creator. So I blog, I have books, I have a couple of YouTube channels. So I just fell in love with personal finance, taught myself, and then decided, hey, I know enough to maybe be dangerous. And why didn't they teach us this stuff in school? I'm going to take a stab at teaching others and perhaps even make money by doing so if I'm any good at it. So yeah, I really enjoy what I do.
Yeah. I think it's awesome that you're speaking from that space because people listening, it's nice to hear. I mean, he has a full time job, people, and he's making time for this stuff. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't have time to create content, I don't have time to put that book or YouTube channel out there, Frankie's making time and he's probably going to share with us how he makes that happen. But for those that don't know, do you mind very quickly sharing your origin story of how finance became important to you? Because I think that's also relevant to where you're at today.
Yeah, I'll do the quick version, hopefully quick. I was the first in my family to go to college. And so I had to figure out the finance piece of that. I actually went into teaching after that and then decided to go get my master's in education. So in going back to grad school, it's even more expensive and had to figure that out. And coming out of that, I decided, well, I got to tackle this personal finance stuff because I had a mound of student loan debt and teaching wasn't going to pay well enough to really even entice me to stay in that career, to be honest. So a couple of years go by and now I'm starting to think about, okay, I also want to get married, buy a house and do all those adult things. I am nowhere near that just financially. So I set a New Year's resolution in 2018. I call it my money resolution, also the name of my first book. Right. I just spent a year just absorbing all things personal finance from podcasts to books to documentaries, you name it. I was just a sponge. I just obsessed over the topic. And it helps that I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't just like a means to an end where I need to figure out how to invest so that I can stop doing this. I realized, oh, I might actually have a passion for this. So yeah, that's how I sort of discovered it. It was from a need and now it's from a want to.
That's cool. And I love how you share it in such a way that's applicable and digestible and relatable. Like you're still working full time, you're a new dad, and you just share what's relevant in the moment as you're living it. And I think that's so needed.
I'm an everyday guy. If I can figure it out, I know for a fact that anyone else can, especially if they have the motivation, the desire and the resources, which hopefully I can help provide.
Yes, for sure. I think one thing that's changed since you and I chatted is a lot of my coaching clients struggle with money. And it's interesting. There's this misconception that I'll figure it out once more comes in, especially as a business owner.
Yeah.
And I've
Yep.
learned it's a lot of the same core problems, and a lot of it just comes from a basic understanding of what's going on, setting some clear goals, and then having processes to support those goals. So I think this episode is so needed, and I'm excited. I could go in 18 different directions,
Is
but go ahead.
I was going to say, as people make more money, they just get better at spending it, right? It's just
Yeah.
that cycle. So it's the I figure it out later mentality is what really gets people, I think, in the most hot water.
Yeah. And that, yeah, I could literally TED talk about that. I completely agree with it.
Right.
I want to take a pit stop. I want to talk about this book because you've actually written, is it
Yeah.
three now or did I make that up?
This was my fourth.
Four.
Yeah. I just self published all of them. You
Okay.
don't need a publisher. It'd be awesome. It's a dream. But yeah, you can certainly put out your own book. And once I discovered how to do one, I sort of shared that first year, that money resolution in a book, had a blast doing it, realized how much I really enjoy writing that I just kept doing it. So I think I put out 3 books in the first 3 years, took a break because I focused on sort of a whole new topic, which we'll get into. And then, yeah, decided to go. I had been sitting on this idea for a long time and finally went for it in a very quick sprint this last year.
So, Frankie, who should write a book?
Oh my gosh. Anyone with a story to tell, honestly, books don't make a ton of money. You can call them your business card. That's for sure. So if you're in the content space, if you have a story to tell, I think you should absolutely write a book. I did it backwards from a lot of people, which is you have to find an audience, you have to find your following, and then write a book and sell it to them. I actually disagree with that. I wrote a book first, and it helped me sort of figure out, what I truly believe in from like a philosophy standpoint. It helped me really hone my creative thoughts and how to process them, digest them, and then put them back out in a way that I could be really thoughtful about it. And so by the time I started promoting the book and making content, I sort of just already had this philosophy and theory that I felt really good about going into that. And so it was very easy to articulate it. Like I wasn't figuring it out as I went. So I think sometimes writing your book first can help you really just focus on that and not doing all these other things because you're going to want to do TikTok and YouTube and all this other stuff. But write the book first, find your voice, find your philosophy, and then use that as your springboard, I think, to do anything, just about anything else. And it just gives you a lot of authority as well. It doesn't matter if you're interviewing for a job or trying to become a public speaker, you can certainly bring up your book and something you're proud of that people will inevitably be impressed by, but it also isn't as hard as it probably looks.
I know I always say the podcast barrier is low. To get
Yeah.
in is
Yeah.
low, to stick in it is super low. I think the average podcaster makes 3 episodes and then drops out. So
Right. Yeah.
books have become not the new podcast, but I believe that it is doable. And I think it's important to know why. So I want to hear, as you've written each book for now, what
Yeah.
was your why behind doing it?
Yeah, I look at them all as phases. So your interests change, right, as you're learning. I was in the money space and I was doing a lot of the generic, like, get your life in order stuff. And I did that for a year and I put that book out. Then I got really interested in year two of like, okay, I need to sort of, I've done all the basics. I've set this foundation. A lot of it's automated. Like, what do I do next? So I got really into money hacks. Like, what's this like creative next thing? Like these sort of like little tricks or fun things to get discounts, right, at stores or whatever it is. And so the next book was about money hacks because I spent about a year focusing on that. Well, year three of obsessing with personal finance, I naturally fell into the FIRE movement. I just discovered it, fell in love with it. This whole idea of retiring early, right? Everyone makes it seem so easy. But I spent a year just obsessing over that topic and sort of setting myself up for maybe I don't have to work forever. Maybe this is realistic, right? Just 2 years ago, I was in a mound of debt. I'm out of that. And if I could get that scrappy and that good when I wasn't making a lot of money, what happens if I can have that same mentality, make money, maybe even be more aggressive and actually retire early and be able to enjoy decades of my life, with family, with kids and that kind of thing, and not have to be beholden to a job. So I became obsessed with that. And I wrote my third book, Save Half, Retire Fast. And then after that, it's kind of like, where do you go? And naturally, I think my interest shifted to mindset, just mentality stuff. And it could be from creativity to productivity to business, entrepreneurship, even just, personal finance. Like, how do you get started, right? How do you overcome those mental hurdles and what does it take? Because I had done some finance coaching on the side with people and I realized the mental side of it is what's holding so many people back at any stage, really, in
Preach.
in your journey. Yeah, it could be like just getting started, or it can be, I've talked to people that are just 4 years away from retiring early and they're hitting a wall. They're just like, it seems so far. It's so hard. Like, I've grinded for this many years. I should be there by now. And even those people are mentally struggling with like pushing forward and to keep going. Yeah, I realize it's definitely like knowledge and how to, but I think the mindset is, I call it 80% of it in the book. The knowledge and how to is 20% of being successful with personal finance.
I appreciate that perspective because as you were talking it to me it was almost this permission slip to just create what's relevant now and like
Right.
let that kind of like allow yourself to grow with what you're sharing. And I feel that way about podcasting, but I never really thought about that from a book perspective. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for you self publishing and all that you do, that it's okay that you didn't know what book four would be when you wrote book one.
Right. And I still don't know what book five is going to be. And that's what I'm sort of in this phase of figuring out and actually putting a pause on creativity so I can go back out there and absorb and start to expose myself to new stuff. And naturally, my interest is going to shift a little bit more. And I think that's perfectly okay. I think I went into this thinking this whole thing, this creativity space in 2018, 2019, thinking I need to find my audience. Everyone says that. You got to really niche down. The riches are in the niches, right? And so that's sort of what I did in the beginning, but then I got a little bit bored. And if your heart's not completely in it, if you're not obsessively learning, what they say, garbage in, garbage out, and or nothing in, it starts to become nothing out, right? And nothing's coming in anymore because I'm not as interested in that topic. I'm a little bit beyond that in my own life space. So either my audience can grow with me, or I might be able to discover a different audience. And so it's been really fascinating over the years, even just to read comments on YouTube videos about different topics. YouTube does a great job, for example, of finding an audience for your videos over time. They certainly love it when your whole channel is about one thing. But I think as a theme, my channel is about setting resolutions, right? It can be a New Year's resolution, but that money resolution can be whatever it is to you, and it can change year to year. Whatever it is that's interesting to you, that you want to focus on, where you want to grow, I think that's where your attention is, and that's where your output probably should be.
Yeah. And hear that from the money guy who also is very much a marketing guy. Like, you look at it from both perspectives. So I definitely
Right.
think there's a lot of truth in that. I want to hear FIRE, just for those that don't know, financial independence, retire early. How has that
Yes.
shifted for you now that you're a dad?
Oh, yeah. I haven't even talked about the fire movement like out
Yeah.
loud in a
Yeah.
while. And the fire movement in general, I think there's almost like this negative stigma or connotation around the word. Like, some people see it as a cult. And I dug into that in my research and put out videos about, is this a cult? Literally, to like, what is the definition of a cult, and putting it right up against it, right? The community doesn't have a cult leader, all these different things. Really, it's tongue in cheek. I'm just having
Yeah.
fun and being silly
Yeah.
with it. Really, it is a group of people that are motivated to live their best life, a better life. They're not stuck in the now and living that best life in this moment. And I think that's what rubs some people wrong, is they're planners, right? They're thoughtful, meticulous people who, not all of them budget to the penny. I certainly do not, right? I set my goals up at the beginning of the year and I automate my way to them. But these are goals that think about the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of their life and what they want out of that. And I just found myself naturally attracted to people that have that long-term mindset. There's no right or wrong way to retire early, right? You could retire early, 5 years early, or you could aim to retire 30, 35 years early. And I think there's like different types of fire methods out there. So there's a method that I think could suit just about anyone. So there's no pressure that you have to save 80% of your, every dollar that you get, save and invest it. I think that's a huge misconception. My goal and what I preach is half. And even in my book, I talk about save half, retire fast. That if you did that for 17 years, you could retire early on any income in any location. And I kind of get into the numbers and the why behind it. So that's sort of the carrot of the book. But I also spent a lot of time in that book and my newest mindset book saying that you're not going to be perfect, right? And it could
Yeah.
be 17 years, it could be 20, 25 years. But what if, you retired even just 10 years sooner than the average individual? You get 10 years of freedom back to your life. Like, to me, that was motivating and something I became passionate about, and spreading it in a way that was just this optimistic thing that you could achieve, not as this, here are the rules, here's why you should do this, and here's exactly, how you get there.
Do you think that
That was my
application?
rant.
No, I love it. And I agree with that. I shared with Frankie before we were recording, but Matt and I are on our own journey. We had a pretty significant savings goal. We actually hit it yesterday as we're recording in real time,
Oh, no
which was,
kidding.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Congrats.
Faster. Thank you. I mean, we moved in with the parents. We're aggressively saving, and we have it in a high yield savings right now to help to put towards a down payment
Mm-hmm.
of a house, ideally not using all of it. But we hit that first marker that's substantial, which feels really good. So this conversation's happening because this is where I'm at
That's
too.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And being
Yeah,
a
I mean, you
business
have to
owner.
have milestones.
Yes.
Yes, you got to have
Together we have
milestones.
goals.
You have to have a partner that understands. They don't have to be
Yeah.
exactly aligned. I don't think my wife was,
Oh, he's
thinking
obsessive. He's
I'm going to save
driving.
half of
I'm
my
just
income.
along.
Well, that
I'm just along for the ride.
even
He is
better. Yeah, he's
obsessive.
driving it.
Yes.
As long as you both can communicate, right, and sit
Yeah.
down. We were talking about, money dates and money parties before we hit record, and I think it's just really important to be aligned. You don't have to be
Yeah.
perfectly aligned, but to communicate and share, like, what are your goals and why, and then hear the other person as well. But yeah, whether it's business, productivity, planning your personal finance with a partner, I think communication, patience, openness, super, super critical.
So has
So
applying,
congrats. Yeah,
thank
that's so
you.
cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. As you're applying what you're doing to being a dad, has that changed now that your kiddo's actually here? Or has your planning kind of paid off to where what you anticipated from like a financial side? Is it pretty much what you thought it would be?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is my favorite thing. I
Yeah.
wanted this my whole life was to be a
Yeah.
dad. And so I've definitely pulled back on that. We need to save 50%, right? I need to retire. I think my original goal was by age 45. If I aim for 45 and ends up being 50, I think that's still pretty cool, right? And I had to have that conversation with myself that it's not just about you and your partner anymore. There's someone else here, and they deserve to have an amazing childhood where you don't look back and feel like you held anything back from them or yourself or from the both of you in like the form of, experiences and that kind of things. I definitely have, it's, you become a little bit of a different person, right? Mom brain, dad brain, and it takes over. The first 2 months we had Wesley, I was in the final pushes of this new money resolution, which I'm sure we'll talk about, this passive
Mm-hmm.
income resolution. And I had 2 months to go exactly when he arrived. And it was very difficult to say, I have to finish this thing and be a dad. Luckily, babies, infants, they sleep a lot. So I was able to, again, just communicate with my partner. I was off of work. So that really helped. And I was able to get across that finish line. But then as soon as the new year came, I thought, what's my resolution this year? Do I have a money focused one? Do I have sort of a business focused one? And I realized like maybe this is the year to have just a personal focused one where I don't need to put that pressure for a whole year. I can commit to that where I have to hit, self-imposed deadlines every single week. I think I should show up for him every single day and my wife. And I think that's the most important thing this year. So I'm not on like a creative break, but I think it's a really good reset after last year and how crazy it was. Because it's crazy even before the baby arrives, right? When you're pregnant or your partner's pregnant, it's a whole different world and you're just obsessively learning over that and everything else. And last year was chaotic and hectic. And I think this is just a different phase. And I'm really looking forward to this and learning how to be a dad, learning him, and then also spending more time just seeing where my interests take me from a learning perspective and creativity perspective.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where you land on the other side of that. We might have to have a part three.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But so far, so good. I
That's
am
cool.
loving it. And I go back on leave in just a few days for a couple
Yeah.
of months. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Okay. I've put it off long enough. I've been dying to ask you about this passive income challenge you did. Let's start with some
Yes.
definitions. So, in your own words, how would you describe or explain what passive income is?
Wow. Passive income. It's where you earn a disproportionate amount of money to the effort put in. That does not mean no effort, lots of money, right? I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people think it is. In fact, passive income is a lot of work. And that's the number one thing I learned this last year. And I've created passive income streams in the past, but trying to do it quickly, which was my goal last year, was extremely difficult. And what you do with passive income to create these streams is actually the most work is front loaded. The idea is you do a ton of work, you build a thing or you create a product, and then that thing is able to live on and continue to earn income. And ideally, it's just maintenance and upkeep at that point. There are a million things you can do for passive income. I started with a brainstorm list of 50, 60, 75 ideas, and we'll get into like how the
Yeah.
project formed and what I actually ended up doing. But that's the gist. It's a disproportionate amount of income to the long term. I should add long term effort that you put in.
Yeah. I love this topic. Those of you may or may not know, but I actually had a couple affiliate things I was doing. Sometimes you might have heard me talk about different brands that I was a part of, and I had to audit where my time was spent for and what was the ROI in that time spent. And I'm in a season where I'm all in on just my business and growing that. And I've actually
Yep.
said no to advertisements, no to affiliate because just the ROI for me where I'm at currently is not there. And my time is better spent and leveraged with those higher dollar, higher ticket sales currently. So I've been there. I've done the direct sales thing for a hot minute. I've had brands reach out that was really flattering and felt good to the ego. Hey, post this stuff. You get free product and a percentage of sales. So I've dabbled in what some may call
Right.
passive income in a couple different ways, and I'm excited to talk about it. But I want to hear just what was your overall maybe takeaway with it, and then let's dive into what specifically some of the ones that you did.
Yeah. So I decided to take on one new passive income stream every single month.
This isn't
I just set rules up front. I said, this is something I've been thinking about for a couple of years, and I think this is the year to truly go for it. And so I call them 30-day sprints. I know some months have 28, some have 31 days, but I just call them 30-day sprints. And I think the most important thing is the planning. So the New Year's resolution, this passive income resolution, didn't start on January 1st. So I said, okay, I'm going to sit down now and figure this out. And I'm just going to start month one and hope this goes well. And then kind of see where it takes me a month two. I actually spent about 2 months like really thinking through on this spreadsheet, from brainstorming all the different ideas to laying out the year to literally thinking about like, when am I going on vacation and how could like maybe that month I need to pick something easier or just wanting to enjoy like my birthday month and it's August and it's summer and it's Seattle. So it's like you're only guaranteed, nice month of weather. And so I was very thoughtful about also I wanted to think about passive income streams I've already done and see if I could do it better and faster and show people how I did it with the experience, but also take on passive income streams I was just interested in that I had always wanted to do, but got put on the back burner because I was doing 10 other things. Sitting down, and I think that's lesson number one is being really thoughtful so that you don't get shiny object syndrome when you're actually in the grind and doing the work. And so the other rule I set was I can only work on one passive income stream at a time. So no matter what, when that month is over, and I'm going to document that month and put it on YouTube, I'm going to announce my next passive income stream. And it's the one I picked at the beginning of the year. I'm not going to change it. And I'm going to attack that 100%. I'm going to spend week one probably learning as much as I can about this thing, weeks 2 and 3 executing, and week 4, me, I'm marketing, I'm trying to sell, and then recapping how it all went and writing about it and making videos. So ton of lessons, but I would say those are, I call it measure twice, cut once. Be really thoughtful when you're planning. And that way you're not tempted to get distracted by shiny objects or life just throwing things at you. And you're like, okay, I guess I can quit this thing. Like, no, I have a plan. I've communicated it to my partner. I have thought through it myself, and nothing is going to stop me from finishing.
Frankie, you just gave really valuable business advice because everyone should tackle their months like that as well. Not coming up with 12 separate passive income streams, but
Right. It's
there
insane.
should
Yeah.
be, yeah, it's insane. And I definitely want to talk more about it. But having that focus in this episode, April is all about money. Every episode this month is about money. Everything's intentional. And I don't allow myself to deviate because I have a master plan where it makes sense. There's different people I'm speaking to. And so his approach to the challenge he did, if you're a business owner, you should take that same principle and apply it to how you kind of map out and plan your year. It will help with content creation. It will help with focus, and it will help keep you on track on those days that something seems shiny or something's not working and you just want to jump ship and try something else. So I love that you said that. I
Totally.
need
And
to
a lot of
know.
people think, sorry,
No, you're
passive
good.
income, the other huge misconception is people always think, and same with investing, although it's a little bit different with investing, is that it takes money to make money. And that was
Yeah.
something I really also wanted to debunk with this project. So
Yeah.
it wasn't a rule. I only had one rule, which is one passive income stream a month. But as I got into it, I realized I don't want to sink too much money into each of these projects because there really is no guarantee any of these are going to pay off in the long run. And so I didn't set out to do it alone, but I essentially did all 12 of these 30-day sprints all by myself. And looking back, I'm really happy because in the end, I didn't make a ton of money. I also didn't lose money. And I also don't think, with 30-day sprints or anything that you're sprinting, you committed to in your life, sometimes having a team, which can cost you money, but it can bog you down from just a time management perspective. I knew my time was limited. Trying to manage contractors or back and forth on Fiverr or whatever it is, I thought could actually slow me down. So I do think there is a place and time for help, and it can be really important. But I will say that costs money. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to show people you can actually earn passive income without spending money. And I did spend a little, I would say under 1,500 the entire year, all in on all 12 of these projects.
So good. What are some examples of the challenges that you ran?
Okay, I'm gonna just say them. I have them in front of me.
Okay, good.
It was an insane year, so I was like, I have to make sure
Yeah.
I have these written down. January, I attempted to get monetized on a brand new YouTube channel, even though I've done that on a different one. So I'm going to start from scratch on YouTube. February, alternative investing. Didn't even really know what that meant when I went into the month, but I had a lot of fun there.
Like,
I avoided NFTs and crypto, and I've learned enough about those over the years to not go there. But
okay.
no, it's like peer-to-peer lending. I invested in a small business, wine. I figured out how to invest in wine, collectibles. So like sports memorabilia. I had a lot of fun in that month. March, online courses. So I've made one before, and I always wanted to update it because I was terrible on camera back then. So I updated that course as well as created a brand new one. April was stock photography, and that was because we had a family trip in Mexico, and I was really excited to get my camera out and roam around Mexico and take a ton of photos. May, created an audiobook for Save Half, Retire Fast, because I regretted never doing that. The book was really long. It was almost 300 pages. So I spent 1 month in May creating the audiobook. June, low content books. We could talk more about what that is, but think like journals. I specifically use ChatGPT to make some low content books. July, affiliate marketing. You talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
August was cashback credit cards. September, I self-published my book, Ready, Money Mindset, Go. And then I decided to spend 3 months really promoting the book because I think marketing and promotion can certainly lead to passive income if you do it right, right? You can earn a disproportionate amount of money if you can learn how to run ads. So I did paid marketing, I did organic marketing. And then in December, something I had always wanted to do, I tried to take on TikTok, and it was an absolute disaster, but I scratched the itch, and now I don't have to think about TikTok ever again, which is great because it might get banned anyway, is what I'm
Right.
hearing. So yeah.
Right.
So that's the 12.
Okay, Frankie has some amazing videos dissecting all of these, so I'm going to direct you to his YouTube channel because they're worth watching if you want like the nitty-gritty details. I just want first blush, which one was the most successful from a financial standpoint?
It's funny. I think
Mhm.
of course I have a spreadsheet, so I'm
Of
pulling it
course you
up.
do.
I think it was one. So I also did 2 bonus that I didn't intend to do during the year, and it was one of the bonus ones. Bonus number 1 passive income stream was I started a Patreon. Like as I announced my YouTube channel, my backup to make money, because my goal every month was to make at least $1. And I was like, it's going to be really hard to monetize a YouTube channel in 30 days. So I started a Patreon, basically just announcing I'm going to give you early access to videos. I'm going to give you access to my planning document where you can see my whole plan for the year for this project and everything else for just $1 or more. So Patreon was not super successful. I think I made $250 by the end of the year on that, which is great though. I had 10 super fans. It's super awesome. Medium was not on my list, but every single month I wrote a script recapping the month and I put out a video about that. And then I would just take that script, which I've done over the years, and turn that into an article on Medium. So at the end of the year, I think I made around $1,600 from Medium, just posting basically an edited script of each of those video recaps from each project. And the bulk of it actually came from one article, right? The 80-20 rule in full effect here. So the bulk, 80% of the money of all the articles I posted on Medium came from an article about stock photography. And same with my YouTube videos. It was my stock photography. Can a complete amateur make money from stock photography? And that article actually did really well. Apparently, there's a lot of people who want to get into stock photography out there. So, yeah, I had a blast documenting all that. And I would say Medium, and this is one of the big themes and takeaways. You can turn one passive income stream into 2, into 3, into 4 if you're really smart about it. So, I was doing the project, documenting the project, turning that into a script, making a video, turning each of those scripts into articles. And then as we'll talk about this year, I think by the end of this next year, I want to turn this entire thing, all those articles, into a book. Oh, and then by the way, you can turn that book into a paperback and ebook. You could also record the audiobook of that book. And within that book, I promote my courses, my YouTube channels, and everything else. So it can go full circle. So yeah, it's probably more than you asked for.
No, people don't talk about this way. And I think I just hear a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of struggling or they're getting burnt out. And I've heard someone mention all the ones that you've mentioned as this, like, oh,
Right.
I just need to build a course. I just need to monetize a YouTube or figure out TikTok. And I think the truth is it's not quite as simple as A to B.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. And it
And
takes
he gave
time.
it his all.
I gave it my all for 30 days. I have to say this too. I do not recommend what I did to anyone out there. You cannot make an effective, and that was part of what I was out to prove. I want to be motivating in the sense of like, I think you can accomplish so much in 30 days if you really commit to it, right? That was like one thing I really did want to encourage people and motivate them with this whole idea of like, look how much I did in 30 days. On the other hand, you cannot build a long-term, very successful passive income stream that's going to allow you to retire right now that requires no effort going forward in just 30 days. They take a lot of effort and time and maintenance. And so what I would actually recommend for anyone just getting started with passive income, I recommend doing something similar. Try out 3 or 4 different passive income streams in these really fast sprints. You're going to find out if you go all in, do I like this enough to stick with it or not? If not, throw it away, move on to the next thing. It is not a loss. It is not sunk time. You learn from everything you do. So there's no such thing as lost time. And if you're doing this, but over time, if you think you're ready to like really pursue passive income, I would go all in on one passive income stream for at least 6 months. If at that point you're not even close to your goals, you're not making a dollar or anything else, yeah, sure, you can pivot. But 6 months to a year, like I wonder if I went all in on stock photography for an entire year, just seeing that one article and that one video popped, that in real life would have been an indicator to me to stick with that, pursue that, go down that rabbit hole, see if I can really tap into that audience and explore that. And in fact, that's how I got into the FIRE movement. I made one video about financial independence, retire early. That video 10x my views than any other video I'd ever seen, and it happened really quickly. So of course I'm like, I got to make a follow-up video. There's an audience there looking. That next video had even more views. And then I said, I'm just going to make nothing but FIRE movement videos because this is interesting to me. And also there's an audience there. So be flexible. But if you're brand new to passive income and you have something like TikTok where you're like, I've just always wanted to try it, give it 30 days. Like just go all in and you'll find out really quickly, A, can this be successful? And B, do I even like this? Could I stick with this?
Yes. So much yes. And again, everything you said I think applies to a lot of different things in life. I have two more Kelsey questions before we wrap up. One of them I know you're not, I feel like in my head you are kind of a business owner because you have your own brand and there are a lot of what you do, it's business, even if it's not necessarily like your full-time thing. But if you were
Yeah.
a business owner and trying to pursue passive income, is that something you would recommend, yes or no, based off of what you know?
I would argue building a business is a long-term passive income stream if
Yeah.
you do it right, right? It is an asset. It is something you could, let's say your interest completely shifts away from this thing someday, and it can happen. You could technically sell that business and start a new one, right? And
Right.
you could get more out of that sale. And I don't know if that's anything you ever talk about or any of your goals. I don't see myself as having a business I could sell, but I would argue that, you put a ton of time into this thing down the line, whether it's from selling it or just all of a sudden taking off, right? Like all of a sudden you have this flood of people and it doesn't happen overnight, right? Gradually, then suddenly you find, you meet the right person and your business really takes off. All that time and effort and all that struggle you put into it for years disproportionately pays off when you figure it out, right? And so
Yes.
I would argue that a business could turn into passive income. Don't be delusional about it. Again, abandon ship if this is a
Yeah.
complete and total disaster and failure. But that's sort of how I would look at it. Yeah, I have a business, I guess. Like I have an LLC. I have income from lots of different places. It's not a lot, but it's super helpful. But I own this thing. I have this thing. I have this
Yeah.
brand. I have this identity. And at the end of the day, like I like the side hustle business thing because I can just be really proud of it and do it because I care and not because I have to. And I think hopefully that shows in my content and everything else is I didn't jump ship from my job and go all in on this where I think I would feel maybe too much tension and stress. I think I'd like to keep this a hobby on the side for a long time just so that it continues to come from this organic place of just authenticity and sharing everything I'm learning and genuinely just trying to help people without people thinking what's in it for him, right?
Yes.
There's not a lot.
There's not a lot. I
There's
love that.
not. I made, look,
Yeah.
here's the total. You want to know
I do.
$3,333 from all 12, technically 14 of those projects. 3 of them made $0. But I had a blast. I learned so much. I checked off so many boxes of all these things, I wanted to try. And I know what not to do, if nothing else. And hopefully just sharing this whole journey online and eventually in a book is going to be inspiring to some people, maybe discouraging to others. And that's okay. Maybe passive income isn't necessarily for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. My last question for you, I'm sure you and I could riff about this for a while, but content
Mm-hmm.
creation. How
Mm-hmm.
important, if you're a business owner and you're building a brand, how important is it? And what's your advice for someone who maybe is struggling to establish that?
Well, if you're struggling, just start, right? I mean, the only way you get good at being in front of a camera or creating content is by creating content, right? You just have to do. That's why every athlete goes to practice, more than they even play games. You have to practice. You have to be willing to ask for help. Um, you have to be willing to critique and criticize yourself and just be like, rewatch your stuff. It's like cringy. I hate, especially sitting down with, my wife or any friends, if they bring up my videos on a screen or something, I'm like, please turn this off. Like I hate it. It's so
Yeah,
cringy.
same.
But sitting down and rewatching your content is really important. Look at the metrics. The metrics will tell you which direction to go, what's working, what's not. Try a lot of different things in the beginning. It's going to help you discover your voice and again, figure out what's working, what's not. But yeah, I mean, you got to learn how to be comfortable and you got to do it. Like you kind of these days do have to be everywhere. You don't have to be perfect. Just be
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the key is just be yourself, be organized, measure twice, cut once, right? I script everything I say and hopefully I hide it pretty well with teleprompters and things like that. But I write everything down because I learned from not doing that. That's not me. I can't just riff and be really good on the spot. This isn't a teleprompter, but
Could you imagine?
yeah, right. If I had canned responses. No, but it also just helped me like discover confidence is like,
Yeah.
you don't have to make this up. You don't have to be perfect today. Just read the lines and then plan the next day and put deadlines on yourself. Self-imposed deadlines are critical. One year I made 2 videos a week on YouTube when I was going all in on YouTube. Another year I made one. This year I'm hoping to do one a month. Like not hoping, I'm going to, right? One a month at a minimum just to keep showing up is really important. So set deadlines like I did with my passive income project. So again, probably more than you asked for, but that's what came to mind.
No, here's the reality of this. He self-published books. He makes a ton of content and you're all in on YouTube. You already said TikTok. You gave it the good old college try. It's
Yeah.
not your place and I think a lot of people try to be too much too many places and it hinders them. But I feel like you've really established and built a community on YouTube. You're on other platforms, but that's definitely your main priority and it shows and it's working.
Yeah. And it was the only rule I broke. I said, I'm going to do YouTube for 30 days and then move on. And then I was like, well, I got to keep documenting. Like, I have to share. It was just like in my
Yeah.
DNA, it was to share what I was learning. So, yeah, YouTube is a ton of work. I will say that to anyone out there, YouTube is the hardest
Mm-hmm.
probably to produce content for and the hardest to find an audience for. But it can also be the one that pays off the most, right? It just stick with it. It takes time. Yeah, YouTube is a tricky one. And that's why I think people turn to shorts. And if that's your thing, shorts are great. You can grow really well with shorts. Just don't feel like you have to do both long form and short content. Find what fits for you and your audience.
So good for those that are listening and want to just keep track of all the cool stuff you have going on and maybe grab a book or four. Where's the best
Oh,
place
we're
to
for.
find them?
Yeah, I guess two things. I promote my newest book, Ready Money Mindset Go. By the end of this next year, I hope to write another one, Passive Income Resolution, recapping that full year. So keep an eye out for that. And then I have two YouTube channels. My original one is Money Resolution or The Money Resolution. And then my newest one, Passive Income Resolution. Really excited. That one documents that everything that happened last year, all the projects, all the fun months with long form recaps of how that all went, including at the very end, how the entire project went with breakdowns of the spreadsheet and month by month. You can see it all there.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for everything and definitely keep us all posted as things evolve, especially this year for you. I feel like this is gonna be a transformational for you year for you personally, and it's gonna be cool to see what
Yeah.
that means content and business wise. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
And congrats to you. You got
Thank
married in
you.
this last year. You're
Yep.
hitting your finance goals. I know you rebranded the podcast a while back and that's going really well. So congrats to you as well. And thank you for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, please go follow Frankie. His videos are awesome. They're great tools if finance is something you want to learn more about, but there's so much more to what he does. So please go check him out. And thank you so much for listening today.